The Gilded Scar, Arthur Blackwood, a name that resonated in the steel and glass canyons of Wall Street with the chilling finality of a struck gavel, presented himself at the unmarked iron door of Genevieve Dubois's studio punctually at midnight. Rain, thin and persistent as a guilty conscience, slicked the cobblestones of the forgotten alley. He was a man accustomed to boardrooms and depositions, to the sterile ballet of power, not to the furtive shadows where art and anguish bled into one another. Yet, here he was, his bespoke suit a stark anomaly against the crumbling brick, drawn by whispers of a woman who didn't just ink skin, but flayed souls and rendered their torment into terrible, exquisite beauty. Gigi Dubois, Genevieve only to the ghosts of her past, opened the door herself. She was a silhouette against the warm, amber light spilling from within, the scent of antiseptic, sandalwood, and something metallic, like old blood, clinging to her. Her own skin was a canvas of shadows and symbols, intricate stories etched in obsidian ink that coiled around her arms and disappeared beneath the black silk of her tunic. Her eyes, the color of a stormy sea, held an unnerving, ancient perception, as if she could see the rot beneath Arthur Blackwood's impeccably tailored facade. "Mr. Blackwood," she said, her voice a low, smoky contralto, not a question but a statement of fact. "You found me." "Your reputation, Ms. Dubois," Arthur replied, his own voice a carefully modulated baritone, betraying nothing, "is compelling. Reputations are often gilded cages, Mr. Blackwood. Much like your own, I imagine." She stepped aside, a silent invitation into her sanctum. "What scar does a man like you seek to immortalize?" The studio was less a place of business and more a shrine to beautiful suffering. Dimly lit, with walls of dark, aged wood, it was filled with anatomical charts, ancient texts on ritual scarification, strange, unsettling sculptures, and the persistent, rhythmic hum of a tattoo gun, resting on a sterile tray like a surgeon's most favorite instrument. The air was heavy, pregnant with unspoken confessions, with the phantom pain of 1,000 indelible marks. This was Gigi's confessional, her operating theater, her temple of transgressions. When a man has everything the world deems valuable, what void could possibly drive him to seek out pain, to have his secrets etched into his very flesh? Is it a search for penance, a craving for sensation in a life numbed by success, or a darker, more complex compulsion? I invite you to dissect this enigma with us in the comments below. If these explorations into the labyrinth of the human psyche hold a grim fascination for you, then etch your approval with a like on this video. Subscribe to our channel for more chronicles of gilded scars and shadowed souls, and activate the notification bell. The needle is always poised for the next indelible story, and your engagement ensures its mark is made. Arthur Blackwood was a monument to ruthless efficiency. His life was a fortress of control, his emotions leashed, his past buried deep beneath layers of success and societal armor. He had a wife, an elegant, distant woman named Catherine, who moved through their sterile penthouse like a well-appointed ghost, their marriage a contract of mutual convenience rather than a union of hearts. He had children, grown and scattered, who knew him more as a legend, a provider of trust funds, than as a father. He had everything, and therefore he had nothing that truly touched the raw, festering wound he carried within him. Gigi, in their initial consultations, which felt more like interrogations, her questions soft yet relentlessly probing, did not ask for the story directly. She studied him, her gaze lingering on the subtle tells, the way his jaw tightened when she mentioned family, the almost imperceptible tremor in his hand when he reached for his water glass, the haunted, far-off look that would sometimes steal into his eyes when he thought she wasn't watching. "A tattoo is a blood pact, Mr. Blackwood," she'd said, her voice a silken rasp, during their third meeting. The rain still wept outside, a constant, mournful chorus. Between the skin and the soul. The needle doesn't just implant ink, it excavates truth. What truth are you so desperate to unearth, or perhaps to bury forever beneath a new, more beautiful scar? He had finally broken then, not with a torrent of words, but with a single, stark request. He wanted a coiling serpent devouring its own tail, an Ouroboros, but rendered not in mythical grandeur, but in agonizing, visceral detail, as if the creature were alive, writhing, consuming itself in an eternal, self-inflicted torment. It was to cover a significant portion of his back, a secret agony hidden beneath his power suits. He didn't offer the why immediately, only the what, the raw, symbolic demand. Gigi had merely nodded, her eyes glinting with a strange, almost predatory understanding. A fitting choice for a man who has devoured worlds to build his own, she murmured. The skin will be prepared. The soul, however, Mr. Blackwood, is your own responsibility. The first session was a descent into a controlled, ritualized hell. Arthur lay face down on the padded table, the scent of antiseptic sharp in his nostrils, the hum of Gigi's tattoo gun a menacing drone that vibrated through his bones. He, a man who commanded thousands, who made markets tremble with a word, was now utterly vulnerable, surrendering his flesh to this enigmatic woman and her needle. Gigi's touch was surprisingly gentle as she prepped his skin, yet her presence was electric, a palpable force in the dim room. When the needles first bit, a constellation of fiery pinpricks, Arthur flinched, a gasp tearing from his throat, a sound so raw, so uncontrolled, it shocked him. He hadn't made such a sound since before. Breathe, Mr. Blackwood. Gigi's voice was a low command beside his ear, her breath warm against his skin, strangely intimate. Pain is a doorway. Let it open you. Hours passed in a blur of searing agony, the rhythmic sting of the needles, the heat of his own blood, the cool swipe of Gigi's cloth. She worked with a focused, almost trance-like intensity, her movements precise, economical, her body close to his, an unwelcome, yet undeniably potent, presence. He could feel the subtle shift of her weight, the brush of her hair against his arm, the faint, metallic scent of the ink mixing with her own unique, sandalwood fragrance. It was an intimacy more profound, more terrifyingly real than any he had shared with Catherine in years. As the serpent began to take form on his skin, a dark, coiling torment, Arthur felt something within him begin to fracture. The pain was a relentless chisel chipping away at the marble facade of his control. Memories, sharp and jagged as broken glass, began to surface, images he had ruthlessly suppressed for decades. A face young, trusting, betrayed. A decision made in a moment of cold, calculated ambition. A life destroyed to pave the way for his own ascent. The Ouroboros on his back was not just a symbol, it was a confession. With each subsequent session, the ritual deepened, became more intense. The studio, insulated from the roaring city outside, became a sealed chamber, a pocket universe where only Arthur's pain and Gigi's artistry existed. He found himself speaking, the words torn from him by the relentless persuasion of the needle, by the unnerving, knowing stillness in Gigi's eyes as she worked. He spoke of his beginnings, of a rival he had systematically, ruthlessly destroyed, a man named Thomas Ashton, his first partner, whose innovative ideas Arthur had stolen, whose career he had shattered, leaving Thomas to a fate of obscurity and, eventually, a quiet, desperate suicide. He spoke of the wife Thomas left behind, a woman whose grief-stricken face still haunted his most private nightmares. The serpent on his back was Thomas, was himself, locked in an eternal, cannibalistic embrace of guilt and consequence. Gigi listened, her expression unreadable. She rarely spoke, offering only a quiet hum of acknowledgement, a precisely aimed question that would pierce another layer of his defenses. Her needle danced across his skin, not just etching a design, but seemingly drawing the poison out of him, drop by bloody drop. The intimacy between them was not sexual, not in the conventional, clumsy fumbling of bodies. It was something far more profound, more elemental, an intimacy of shared darkness, of excavated secrets, of pain transmuted into a terrible, enduring art. He felt an almost religious reverence for her, this high priestess of scars, this silent, perceptive confessor. She was, he realized with a jolt, the only person in the world who knew the true, unvarnished Arthur Blackwood. The man beneath the gilded armor. the man with the serpent devouring his soul. He started to crave the sessions, the pain, Gigi's unsettling presence. His carefully ordered life began to unravel at the seams. He missed important meetings, his focus shattered. His rare interactions with Catherine became even more strained. Her polite inquiries met with a brusque dismissal he barely registered. He was an addict, and Gigi's studio was his temple, her needle his sacrament. He was becoming undone, and the unmaking was a terrifying, exhilarating liberation. He was, in a way, mirroring the self-consuming serpent now permanently etched into his being, a creature of his own making, a testament to his own profound existential infidelity, not to a spouse but to his own humanity. When pain becomes the only path to truth, the only sensation that makes you feel truly alive in a life numbed by artifice, is it a form of grotesque healing, a desperate penance? Or is it simply a deeper, more beautifully rendered damnation? Can a scar, however artfully designed, ever truly erase the sin that birthed it, or does it merely give it a more permanent, more visible throne? I invite your raw confessions and considered judgments in the ink-stained comments below. The complication, when it arrived, was as inevitable as a sunrise, yet as shocking as a sudden, unexpected blow. Catherine Blackwood, a woman long accustomed to her husband's emotional absences and unexplained late nights, had perhaps grown immune to suspicion. But Arthur's recent transformation, his haggard appearance, his haunted eyes, the almost feverish intensity that now clung to him, had finally pierced her practiced indifference. A discreet inquiry, a well-placed word to a private investigator who owed the Blackwood empire a favor, and the unmarked door in the forgotten alley was no longer a secret. Gigi was working on the final, agonizing details of the serpent's head, its fangs poised to once again sink into its own tail, when the insistent metallic rap came at the studio door. It was not the discreet knock of a client. It was something sharper, more demanding. Arthur, lying on the table, his back a raw, bleeding canvas, tensed. Gigi paused, her tattoo gun humming softly, her eyes narrowed, listening. "Expecting company, Mr. Blackwood?" she murmured, her voice calm, yet a new, almost predatory alertness in her stance. Before Arthur could answer, the rapping came again, louder this time, followed by a cool female voice, unmistakably Catherine's. "Arthur? I know you're in there." The doorman was obliging. Arthur swore a raw, ugly sound. He tried to sit up, but Gigi's hand, surprisingly strong, pressed him back down. "Stay still. The work is not yet complete." Her voice was a whippoorwill's cry, soft but absolute. She wiped a bead of blood from his back, her touch impersonal, almost clinical, yet beneath it, Arthur felt a strange, terrifying thrill. The confluence of pain, exposure, and Gigi's unnerving control was a potent, almost unbearable cocktail. Gigi moved to the door, a silent, black-clad wraith. She opened it just a crack, her body blocking most of the entrance. Catherine Blackwood stood there, impeccably dressed, her face a mask of strained composure, though her eyes blazed with a cold, righteous fury. "Miss Dubois, I presume," Catherine said, her voice dripping ice. "I've come for my husband." "Your husband, Mrs. Blackwood," Gigi replied, her tone equally cool, equally unyielding, "is currently indisposed, undergoing a rather delicate procedure." "Procedure?" Catherine's laugh was a brittle, broken thing. "I'm well aware of the procedures you offer in this establishment." Her gaze flickered past Gigi, trying to pierce the dim interior of the studio. "Arthur, stop this charade and come out here." From the table, Arthur could only manage a groan, a sound of pure, abject misery. The pain from the tattoo, coupled with the humiliation of this exposure, was a fresh, exquisite agony. Gigi turned her head slightly, looking back at Arthur, a strange, almost triumphant glint in her storm-gray eyes. Then she turned back to Catherine, her voice dropping to a near whisper, yet carrying an undeniable authority. "He cannot come out, Mrs. Blackwood. Not yet. He is in the midst of a reckoning. Penance, if you will. One that he has commissioned. One that he must see through to its beautiful, terrible conclusion." And with that, Gigi slowly, deliberately began to close the door, leaving Catherine Blackwood standing alone in the rain-swept alley, her fury, her grief, her bewilderment shut out, and irrelevance to the dark ritual unfolding within. The gilded scar was nearing its completion. The final session was an ordeal of blood and revelation. With the ghost of Catherine's fury haunting the alley outside, Gigi worked with a feverish, almost demonic intensity, her needle a relentless instrument of both creation and destruction. Arthur, beyond the point of caring about exposure, about ruin, surrendered himself entirely to the pain, to Gigi's artistry, to the culmination of his long, secret torment. As the final lines were etched, as the serpent finally, irrevocably consumed itself, he confessed the last, darkest pieces of his story, not just the ruin of Thomas Ashton, but the subsequent, systematic erasure of Ashton's legacy. The deliberate acquisition of his widow's meager assets through legal yet morally bankrupt maneuvers. He had not just destroyed a man, he had salted the earth of his memory. When Gigi finally lifted the needle, her face was pale, beaded with sweat, her eyes burning with a strange, almost ecstatic exhaustion. "It is done," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "Your penance, Mr. Blackwood. Your gilded scar." She helped him to a mirror. What stared back at him was a stranger. His back was a maelstrom of black ink, of coiling, scaled fury, the serpent a magnificent, horrifying testament to his internal desolation. It was undeniably a masterpiece, a work of terrible, breathtaking beauty. Yet it offered no solace, no absolution. Only a permanent, visible branding of his soul's decay. Catherine was gone when he finally stumbled out of the studio hours later, the first gray light of dawn painting the city in hues of ash and despair. His driver, a man of granite-faced discretion, merely opened the car door, his expression unreadable. The fallout was swift, brutal, and played out in the cold, unforgiving glare of the public eye. Catherine, armed with her own investigators' reports and a righteous fury, initiated divorce proceedings that were as bloody and ruthless as any of Arthur's corporate takeovers. The whispers of his strange, nocturnal activities, of the shocking, monstrous tattoo that now adorned his back, a detail inevitably, deliciously leaked to the tabloids, shattered his carefully constructed public persona. His empire, built on an illusion of cold, hard rationality, began to tremble. He was ostracized, a pariah, the gilded scar on his back a metaphor for the ruin he had brought upon himself. He never saw Gigi Dubois again. Her studio, when he once, in a moment of desperate, masochistic longing, tried to find it, was gone, vanished as if it had never existed, leaving only a blank, anonymous door in a forgotten alley. She had, it seemed, moved on to her next canvas, her next soul in need of a terrible, beautiful reckoning. Arthur Blackwood lived out his remaining years a recluse, his vast wealth a cold comfort, his skin a constant, itching reminder of his guilt, his penance, his exquisitely rendered damnation. The serpent on his back did not grant him peace, nor did it absolve him. It merely coiled tighter, a permanent, inescapable embrace, a gilded scar that was both his masterpiece and his tomb. If you could etch your deepest regret, your most profound secret, onto your very skin for the world to see, or perhaps, to hide forever as a private torment, what image would it take? And do you believe such a mark could ever bring you peace, or would it simply become a more beautiful, more intimate form of your ongoing suffering? Share your confessions, your philosophies in the ink-stained sanctuary of the comments below. We are listening without judgment. Thank you for allowing us to trace this intricate tapestry of pain, penance, and dark artistry onto your attention. If the gilded scar left its indelible mark upon your thoughts, press the like button with unequivocal intent. Subscribe to our channel for more narratives that dare to pierce the surface of conventional morality, and activate the notification bell. The needle is always poised, ready for the next story, the next soul. Your engagement is the lifeblood that allows this unique art to continue. We are deeply grateful you chose to step into the studio with us today. May your own skin and soul bear only the marks you choose with clarity and courage.